What's up, sports fans? Welcome to V Sports Insider. So it's been little more than a day that Canelo Alvarez defeated Callum Smith, and we have all kinds of boxing channels right now, all according to the same script, all synchronized, hating on Canelo Alvarez becoming the 4-weight world champion and cementing his status as the pound-for-pound king. We're gonna talk about that irrational hatred towards Canelo Alvarez, and we're gonna look at the reasons behind it, so stay tuned. So like we all know, Saul Canelo Alvarez, he fought Callum Smith this past weekend, the Super WBA champion in the super middleweight division, the Lineal and Ring Magazine champion, the winner of the World Boxing Super Series, and the undisputed #1 super middleweight in the world. Canelo Alvarez was able to secure a dominant unanimous decision victory. He lost maybe one round the whole fight. He was dominating, he was controlling the fight, and he was beating up the reigning champion, and he proceeded to become the WBA, WBC, the Ring Magazine, and the Lineal super middleweight champion of the world, the 4-weight world champion. No questions about it anymore. A lot of people were questioning Canelo Alvarez's super middleweight belt, the WBA regular title that he had, but now there's no more questions about it, and Canelo Alvarez defeated the true champion. He defeated the champion that everybody was calling for him to fight just a year ago when he fought Sergey Kovalev. Every single one of those haters, those Canelo hating boxing channels, every single one of them was unanimous in accordance to the same script, hating on Sergey Kovalev as an opponent and saying that Callum Smith should have been an opponent when Canelo fought Sergey Kovalev. Everybody was saying, every one of them was saying Sergey Kovalev was an easy opponent on the way down. He was the least resistance. He should have fought Callum Smith. He's the true champion at 168 pounds, and Canelo only had the regular belt. Callum Smith had super belt, so he should fight Callum Smith and not Sergey Kovalev. And what happened now? Now Canelo Alvarez fought the same guy that were begging him to fight just a year ago, and he dominated the same guy they all wanted him to fight. And now that Canelo Alvarez is finally, no questions asked, the legitimate, the only true super middleweight champion of the world, they switched the tune, they changed the script, and each one of them, every single one of them now has the brand new exact same script that says Callum Smith was an easy opponent, Callum Smith is a Eurobum, he should have fought Charlo, he should have fought Caleb Plant. I mean, by which exact logic was Canelo supposed to fight Caleb Plant before Callum Smith? By which logic? If you compare the two, you can look at the resume first. Callum Smith is the #1 fighter in the division. He's the Lineal Ring Magazine WBA Super Champion. He won that by entering the World Boxing Super 6 by defeating the #1 guy in the finals, George Gross. He knocked him out, retired George Gross, and became the rightful #1 guy in the division. And if you look at Caleb Plant, he's fought absolute nobodies. He's fighting a guy rated 43 in the world next. And before that, he fought Mike Lee. And you might wonder, what's Mike Lee's rating in the super middleweight division right now? It's 99. Exactly. The guy's barely top 100 in the super middleweight division. So Caleb Plant's resume compared to Callum Smith or compared to any other resume, that's pure garbage. I mean, the guys fought absolute nobodies, and there's even zero hype behind him. There's no reason whatsoever why should you fight a guy for an IBF belt first and not a guy that holds the Lineal, the Ring Magazine, the WBA Super Championship. Why would you do that? So that then the haters could say, oh, he fought a guy who only had an IBF belt, who fought nobodies, who was #4 or #5 in the division, and he didn't fight the #1 rated Callum Smith. And you know, at least Callum Smith, he had every single physical advantage over Canelo. He had height, he had reach, he had weight. If you look at Caleb Plant, he's got nothing. He's shorter than Callum Smith. He's shorter reach. He's got no special skills whatsoever. He's slow on foot, slow hands. There's absolutely nothing this guy possesses that could possibly trouble Canelo Alvarez. And if you look at the third point, the financial side of the things, there's also absolutely no reason why should you fight a guy that nobody even cares about, that nobody's heard of, instead of a guy that everybody knows had won the World Boxing Super Series before, that everybody knows is #1 in the division, that's got the UK, the country behind him, who's an undefeated champion from the UK, a market that everybody wants a piece of. But no, according to the Canelo haters, he was supposed to fight a lesser opponent for lesser money, for lesser belts, lesser recognition, just so they could say, oh, he fought a Caleb Plant, but he didn't fight the #1 guy in that division. Just like they're mentioning right now that Canelo should have fought David Benavidez, a guy that doesn't even have a belt, a guy that lost his belt on the scales, who came overweight and lost his belt on the scales, a guy whose only defense is block punches with his face. So that's supposed to be a great challenge for Canelo, a great opponent, but not the #1 guy in the division. That doesn't make any logic. It doesn't make any sense. And you know, they're throwing all kinds of things at Canelo right now just because they can't dispute his pound for pound #1 status anymore. Now they're saying he should have fought the WBC regular champion at middleweight, Jermall Charlo. I mean, Jermall Charlo, who was presented a Canelo opportunity. Now all of these hater channels, they've got the exact same agenda, the exact same script. Bring up Jermall Charlo, say that he never received a contract to fight Canelo. I mean, what logic does that make? Everybody who knows anything about any boxing negotiations know that the contracts are the last phase of negotiations. First, you need to negotiate, then you need to agree to a fight, and then you get a contract, sign the fight, and it's on. I mean, if there's no agreement for a fight, you're not going to get a contract. I mean, that's how it works. Nobody's ever been randomly sending contracts to people to sign a fight. I mean, that never happened in the history of negotiations in this part of boxing. But you know, the devotee fan club haters and logic rarely ever go together, so you can never expect logic, you can never expect facts or rationality from those hating boxing channels. That's just not what they do. They only have one objective: to hate Canelo, to bash Canelo, because Canelo is pound for pound #1 and they do not like it. Canelo is better than their favorite fighters. Canelo is beating up their favorite fighters fight after fight after fight. And you know, fight after fight after fight, it's getting more and more difficult for them because they have to dig another opponent, another supposed boogeyman that Canelo Alvarez is allegedly avoiding. I mean, you could tell that they are in a very, very bad place when they are forced to bring up somebody like Caleb Plant as some kind of boogeyman. I mean, the second Canelo signs to fight Caleb Plant, they're instantly gonna look for somebody else. They're gonna declare Caleb Plant an easy opponent and they're gonna look for somebody else. That's just how those guys are. They are never going to reconcile with the fact that Canelo Alvarez is pound for pound the best fighter in the world. Anyway, that was a report on the increasing hatred towards Canelo Alvarez. Tell us what you think, and if you like the content, feel free to subscribe and share the video. It greatly helps to the visibility of the channel. And like always, there's no bias with V Sports Insider.